Today we talk about my most anticipated action figure of 2023, even if she is wearing the wrong color. Oh, don't look at me like that. You know there is nothing in the world that is white that shines the way that those old Jim Lee drawings did back in the 90s X-Men books. This costume is supposed to be black, and I, for one, eagerly await the eventual repaint. Hello there, ladies and gentlemen. I'm Photo Dave. This is Toypixx, and in this video, if you haven't figured it out yet, we're going to be discussing the Medicom Mafex Storm, a figure I've really been anticipating, a figure I am stoked to have, but she does have one maddeningly bothersome thing going for her. I will, of course, talk about in the video. Now, as always, this isn't like a deep dive review. I'll be talking about things that are different on this figure than what you would find on other Mafex figures, because I assume you're watching this because you're into Mafex. So you'll see some of the different stuff, as well as seeing what I think about when it comes to setting her up for photography, all those things. So let's just stop rambling, stop glancing over at the Wind Rider, and get to it, shall we? And ladies and gentlemen, here she is in all her Wind Rider style glory, the Medicom Mafex Storm. And I dig it. I really dig it. Check out the wrinkles going on in the arms. That's good stuff. You don't see that often with a lot of these comic figures. Everything is molded, too. That's one of the differences between Medicom Mafex figures and other figures, is it's not just painted on. Like, these lines going through here are molded. This is all molded. Those X's are molded inside there. I mean, it's just a good looking figure. I love what they do when it comes to the detail on these figures. Something I really appreciate as far as the look is it's kind of hard to see through the phone. Yes, I'm recording on the phone, but I think it'll show up just fine in the video. And it's how the boots are kind of a pearlescent color versus the white of the rest of the uniform. I think that looks really cool. That's an added thing that you don't really notice even in the old artwork. And then, of course, there's the face, but we'll get into the heads here in a minute. So, yeah, I think when it comes to the detail work they did on Storm, I think they nailed it. I don't think they Medicom'd it. Now, moving her back a little bit, let's show off some hands, other accessories, all the things. These are lightning hands that really let's focus a little better, that really show off her power well. It's great translucent look. I'm a big fan, and it's not like, it's softer plastic, but it's not really, I guess it is kind of rubbery, but it's not going to lose its shape. It just looks really good. And then we've got some more. These will go into the palms of one of her hands. It has a peg, so it just attaches kind of on the end here. And now, busting out tweezers, because I'd have a unibrow if I didn't have them, we have fists. We have open splayed out hands. These are the hands, you'll see the pegs there. Those are the pegs that you would plug that one lightning effect into. We have some flatter splayed out hands. A different style of splayed out hand. Storm really likes to do the splaying. And hands that almost look a little claw-like, but there's a lot of attitude in those things. Those are the kinds of hands that make me geeked about photography. And then let's look at her heads a little bit here. This is sort of an angry head, something I didn't point out in the details. Look at what they did with the hair. Like, the sculpt itself is insane, but they added a blue. It's more than a wash. There's not a lot of white poking out there. It is mostly blue, but I think it really breaks everything up nicely. And then, of course, you've got the earrings that I should have pointed out earlier as well. Just great looking head sculpts. They nailed Storm's character and her look. And then here's the one they did with just a slightly open mouth. Not a whole lot different expression-wise, just a slightly more open mouth. And those were the accessories. Okay, now I want to show off a few of the things they did differently for Storm that they don't normally do for Medicom Mafex figures. That's a mouthful. I might just start saying Mafex now. Anyway, check out the way they did the cape here. Not so much in the back. These shoulder pads haven't fallen off or anything. I've been lucky with that from what I understand. But when it comes to the bracelets, they come off. And so when you pull the hand off, the cape slides over the hook. They're the little peg that holds the hand on. So check this out. I'll just show you. But you can tell it's kind of a pain because I don't want to show you. So there that is. And you can see that this hooks around that peg. And then when you take it off, the bracelet comes off too sometimes, or it'll stay. I mean, it's not glued on. So that's kind of a bit of a pain the way it's done. The problem is I don't know how else they could have done it. I think it was a right way to solve the problem. It's just that it's a problem that's really difficult to solve. I was thinking maybe they could have glued it, but then there would have been no give for the bracelet or the cape. Everything would have been stuck in place. You'd have a better chance of ripping it. So that was a different thing that they did for this figure that I think works as well as it could work. I don't know what else they could have done to make it any different, like I said. But then when you put the hand back on, it's also weird because trying to fit this so it looks right can be a trick. You see, looking at it right now, you've got a little bit of the cape sticking up there. So that's kind of a problem, but I'm getting better at inserting it within the bracelet. So it's just going to be one of those things that takes time to get done. But overall, I think it was the right way to solve it. That's one of the things I like about Mafex is just they treat each figure individually and they solve each one's problems individually. It's very cool. I like it a lot. And then something else that's different, you'll notice she doesn't have a bicep swivel. And what they've done is they've made the butterfly joint either insanely huge, or they've done kind of like see how it's moving on that ball at the end. Plus, you've got this joint that just goes all the way forward. So you can see you've gotten quite a bit of turn there. It's similar to Iron Man, how... Let me bust out Tony here real quick. It's similar to how they did this with the shoulder, where it just comes straight out forward like that, but yet it's not the same thing. But I figured it was worth mentioning just because it's a lot different than what goes on with a lot of other figures. So you got those two differences when it comes to the cape, when it comes to the bicep swivel. Most of the construction other than that is pretty similar. Now, one thing that I really like about Storm here that a lot of other figures don't do when it comes to the females in the Mafex line, let's actually bring in Huntress just to show you what I'm about to talk about because she's the most recent female figure that they've done. Let's look at Huntress's hand here. And let's get her to stand so I'm not sitting here trying to fumble through all this. Stand, woman! Alright, there we go. Look at her arm, the degree of bend that her arm has. Okay, I think she's going to stay. Game on. Now, check out Storm here. This has me super excited. Like, look at how much more bend she gets. My assumption is, because if you look at their arms, Storm's does look thicker because of the design, the wrinkle design going on up there. So my assumption is she can do that because the arm itself is bigger. But I can't be 100% sure. That's just my assumption. Either way, I really like that we've got that with Storm. Now, one of the things that I've seen discussed when it comes to Storm, at least I saw it on Displaying Model Behavior, is Dave was having a really hard time pulling her head off the neck peg, and I find that that's happening with mine as well, so it could be the whole run. I don't know these things. So, there is a fix, and I was doing this because my Joker had a similar problem. In fact, the entire peg was coming off in the Joker's head, and I eventually had to figure out how to make it so it would stop doing that. And what I did was I used some heat to pull the neck peg out of Joker's head, put it back in the body, and then I would use some of this oil, the shock oil, to get inside the head of the figure and to rub on the ball that connects to the head, just so everything slides in and out a lot easier. And I'm going to demonstrate that right now with this Storm head, just because I hear people talk about it, but I don't really see them do it. So let's check this out. First, we'll just pop this thing open. I'm going to try to do this on camera, but fair warning, that's not always easy. Let's see. Try and get the focus fixed first. Okay, here we go. It's just one little drop. There we go, just a little tiny bit on there. Cap that off so it doesn't get all oily anywhere. Then we take Storm here, take her head, and there's the little hole inside her head. Some people tell me I have one of those. I only think I have 5, but who really knows? So you just mix that oil up inside that ball, and whenever I eventually get the guts up to use the hairdryer to pop that head off, I'll be doing the same thing with that head, the other head, and I'll be doing it to the ball peg. And after a while, it should work itself out where it's easy enough to pop the heads on and off the figure. So, that's my little PSA in the middle of this review. Now, on her own, when it comes to photography, Storm is going to be very easy to photograph. You're going to be able to light her up very nicely. She's going to look great. I'm a fan, but again, I can't wait till we get the black repaint, because black is like the cheat code when it comes to photography. In fact, when it comes to group shots and say a character that's dressed in black, things are going to get a whole lot trickier. So obviously we busted out Catwoman here. This is why I say that Storm's costume's black, by the way. Look at that. Look at those two. Which one is reflecting more light and looking more like how the comic book looked? Come on, be honest with yourselves. That's definitely Catwoman. Anyway, lighting this kind of thing up, when you have a group shot, it's going to be a lot harder. You can see here right now, Storm, she doesn't look terrible, but compared to Catwoman, one looks just really good with this lighting setup, one looks kind of okay. So when it comes to a group shot, you're going to have to make a decision. Does Storm really take the light, and you don't do much when it comes to the other figures? Or is it that you decide to hit the other figures with the light, not Storm so much? Do you backlight Storm? There's going to be a lot of decisions. Basically, in a group shot, it's going to take a lot more work for you to make it so that Storm looks right than it will to make it so that anyone else will look right. Just thought I'd throw that out there when it comes to the photography game, but either way, it can be done because this figure, she looks too good not to photograph well. So, with all that said, I think we all know what photo score this figure's gonna get. She obviously has crazy sculpt, she clearly has crazy paint, she has accessories, she has extra heads, she has extra hands, she's got great articulation, and obviously with Mafex, you're gonna get natural movement, so Aurora here gets a photo score of 7 out of 7. And that, ladies and gentlemen, was my review of the Medicom Mafex Storm. Now, to go over the cons again real quickly, obviously the head is a huge con, but like I said earlier, I think that with oil, popping heads on and off, and all that good stuff, I think over time it'll work itself out. It did with the Joker. I'm guessing that'll be the case here as well. Another con is how this fits in with the bracelets, yet I don't want to bust them too hard because I don't know how else they could have done it, the way the cape connects to the bracelets I meant. And a con that's kind of annoying and probably is just on my copy, I can't see this being a big time thing across the line or across the run, is that the pelvis is kind of misshapen, but the plastic is there, so I'm going to have to hit that with some heat and try and get that working. Aside from that, the only photographic con is when you have a character that is white like this, just wearing all kinds of white clothing. They're pretty hard to do in group settings unless you make them the focus and let everybody else get a little darker. She's going to need a lot of special little lights and things around her to make her stand out when it comes to the rest of the team, when it comes to group shots. Now, aside from all that, I love the way that they did the elbows. They move a lot more than most female figures. I really dig the pearlescent going on her boots here. It's a great contrast between that and the white of the rest of the costume. And I hugely dig the sculpt and the faces especially. I think this is a gorgeous figure. I mean, They nailed Storm, and I am super stoked to have this figure. So, that's what I've got for this one, gang. Do me a favor, comment below, let me know, are you picking her up? Do you already have her? What do you think of her? And are you too a Mafex snob like yours truly? Because with every release, it seems I get deeper and deeper into that Mafex snob hole. These are words that should never be put together. Anywho, everybody, as always, thank you very much for taking the time to check out this video. I know how valuable time is, and the fact that you choose to spend it checking these out, well, I certainly appreciate it. So, with all that out of the way and this review of Storm done, until next time, have fun and happy snapping. See ya.